A young girl stood staring at the old ornate mirror. She had found it in the attic of her new home and brought it downstairs to clean. But as she gazed into its depths, she saw not her own reflection, but an image of a beautiful woman from a bygone era standing in a candlelit room. And that was only the beginning. As the years passed, she watched as the woman aged, going from a carefree young lady to a worried mother to a wizened old woman ready for bed. For 24 years, the mirror showed her a life that wasn't hers, a life filled with both happiness and sorrow, love and loss, hope and fear. The young girl grew up alongside the woman in the mirror, always wondering who she was, why she was there, and what had happened to her. But one day everything changed. The old woman in the mirror looked back, and the girl saw her own face staring back at her from the other side of the glass. It was a moment that defied explanation, a moment that shattered the boundaries between past and present, reality and reflection. And in that moment, the young girl realized that she had just witnessed the life of her future self. This is the story of the mirror that showed not just a reflection, but a glimpse into the past and the future. This is the story of a lifetime. The mirror was an antique, ornately carved from dark wood and covered in tarnished silver. It had been in the attic of the house that my family and I had just moved into when my dad came across it while clearing out the space. As soon as he saw it, he told me, my oldest daughter, to come help him bring it down. I was 12 and immediately intrigued. There was something about the mirror that drew me in, despite the fact that my dad said it was probably cursed. He was joking, of course, but he admitted that there was something strange about it. He couldn't explain it, but since he was taking it out anyway, we might as well take it out. It was heavy even for 2 adults, but we managed to get it out of the house and into my room, where I proceeded to spend most of my free time over the next few days trying to clean it off. It took a lot of effort, but slowly I began to see my reflection in the glass, or at least I thought I did. At first, it was just a faint outline of a person. Then as I continued to wipe away the grime, the figure became clearer. However, when I finally thought I had done enough, I was shocked to realize that the person in the mirror didn't look like me at all. In fact, it looked like a woman. She was tall and elegant with long flowing hair and eyes that seemed to hold 1,000 stories. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining things, but the more I stared at the mirror, the more convinced I became that what I was seeing was real. I tried to touch my hair, my dress, anything to make sure I wasn't dreaming. But the strangest part was that no matter what I did or how hard I tried, I couldn't get my reflection to do anything. It was like she was stuck in whatever world she inhabited, unable to interact with mine. And then the worst thing happened. My parents walked in on me. They were shocked to see that I wasn't alone. But before I could explain what I was seeing, they told me that I needed to stop playing and go outside for a bit. I argued with them, insisting that I wasn't playing, that I was serious. But they just shook their heads and told me I was making this up. So I stormed out of the house and went to sit on the porch steps. And that's when I noticed that the woman in the mirror was gone. When I went back inside, I ran straight to the mirror to see if she was back. And she was. It was then that I realized that the mirror was somehow showing me the life of a woman who lived in another time period. That realization sent shivers down my spine. I knew that what I was seeing was real, even if I couldn't explain it. And so I spent the next few months watching her life unfold before my very eyes. The woman in the mirror eventually became a mother, her belly swelling beneath her dress as she cradled her child. I saw her joy as she played with a little girl with hair the color of wheat and a smile that could light up a room. I also saw her sadness as she watched her husband leave for war, never to return. And I felt her pain as she held her dying child in her arms, whispering words of comfort and love. There were times when I wanted to reach out and touch her, to tell her that she didn't have to be afraid, that everything would be okay. But my hand would go right through her, as if she were a ghost. And then there were times when I wished I could disappear, to fade away into the background and let her live her life in peace. But I couldn't do that either. I was stuck there watching her, unable to intervene or interfere in any way. It was like being a spectator in a movie, knowing the outcome but being powerless to change it. I watched as she grew older, her face becoming lined and wrinkled, her hair turning from the color of wheat to the color of ashes. And I watched as she faced her final moments with the same grace and dignity she had shown throughout her life. As I stood there watching her die, I couldn't help but feel a sense of connection to her. We had never met, yet I knew more about her than I did about my own mother. We had never spoken, yet I felt like I understood her better than anyone else in my life. And as she breathed her last breath and the mirror faded to black, I felt an overwhelming sense of loss, as though I had just lost someone very close to me. When I regained my senses, I realized that the mirror was no longer showing me the woman's life. Instead, it reflected my own image back at me. I was the same age as the woman had been when I first discovered the mirror. And as I stared at my own reflection, I couldn't help but wonder what she had seen in those last moments. Had she seen her own future, the life that she would one day lead, the joys and sorrows that would eventually become my own? Or had she simply seen the end of her journey, the final chapter of a story that had been written long before she had ever lived? The truth is, I don't know. But as the years passed and I grew older, I couldn't help but feel like the woman in the mirror was a part of me, a part of my destiny. After all, we had shared a life together, her past and my future, and I knew that no matter what happened, our paths would continue to be intertwined in ways that I couldn't even begin to imagine. I am now 36 years old and the mirror continues to hang in my home. It's become a part of my life, a reminder of the past and a window into the future. I don't know what the woman in the mirror saw when she looked back at me all those years ago, but I hope that it was a vision of the strong, independent, and compassionate woman I've become. Because as I stand here looking back at myself, I can't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment. I've lived a good life filled with love, laughter, and purpose. And I know that no matter what challenges the future may hold, I'll be able to face them with grace and dignity, just like the woman in the mirror taught me.